And welcome back to the Tactics Board podcast. Today, I'm joined by Mavry Football from TikTok, the Brighton fan, and we're going to be talking all things Man City Brighton. We're also going to be talking about Brighton, about Fabian Hürzeler. Is he underperforming? We'll answer that question later. First of all, Marv, how are you doing, and what did you think of the game yesterday?
I'm good. I'm happy. I'm very happy with the point. You can never complain with the point away at City. And yeah, of course you can. But yeah, on the whole, I thought we did really well. It's best performance in best part of 5, 6, 7, 8 games. And like I say, you can never complain with a point. But I thought we could have had more. You could have had more. Could have gone either way. I think at the end of the day, draw was probably fair result.
It was quite a weird game. If we're looking at the stats, we had 7 big chances to your 5, which is an insane volume of really high quality chances. Every chance felt like it was a great opportunity to score rather than lots of half chances. Do you think that's maybe down to Fabian Hürzeler and Pep Guardiola both prioritizing attack over defense, and therefore having those attacking approaches leads to big spaces in defense?
Yeah, I think we were also quite strong out of possession and defended spaces quite well, especially in the last line. You do look to try and find holes and spaces in the opponent's last line. And I noticed, like, for example, Pascal Gross was plugging those gaps. But I think also these big chances came because of individual errors. Yasin Ayari made 2 or 3 big ones. Diego Gomez gave away a penalty, misplaced a big pass, leading to a chance. So it's a bit of a balance. Yeah.
I think that's fair. When you think of our biggest chances in the game, I think they were obviously the penalty, which is an individual error. I don't think Doku was in a particularly dangerous situation when he was fouled. And then you have, like you say, the 2 giveaways at the back. Do you think that's like a symptom of Fabian Hürzeler maybe trying to play this progressive football with a squad that isn't good enough, and therefore some of the blame could go with him? I don't watch Brighton loads. Is this something that's happening consistently, or was it just an issue yesterday? Because you did look shaky when trying to play out the back.
Well, there is an argument to be made about Fabian Hürzeler and his style of football that it could translate to a higher level. That players like Yasin Ayari, whose action's very quick and he's a quick thinker, he's good with 2, 3 touches, is better, and Pascal Gross made a big difference. Players like that who are more intelligent on the ball are thriving, whereas players like Diego Gomez, for example, who aren't, but who are better in, I want to say in the box, but we're not going to talk about that miss. But to be fair, Diego Gomez does have some very, very good box movement, which a lot of strikers would want, and a lot of good strikers have. But I think a lot of people look at Fabian Hürzeler's football and say he's saved by individual brilliance, which the argument to be made against that is that isn't that what you make a tactical system for, to get the most out of your good players, and to let those players have those moments and give them that responsibility. But there's also an argument to be made that people don't feel bad for Hürzeler when these individual errors are made. So you look at Diego Gomez, plenty of those from him all season long, really. Missed chances. Again, it's somewhere in the middle. I think with Hürzeler, he's okay. He will come good. Maybe not with us. It's difficult to predict. I think more so with managers and players in terms of their career trajectory. But I do think he has to be a bit more adaptable to our squad, and rather than his ideas.
I think there's a fine line between platforming and having that individual brilliance and maybe relying on it. Because I'd say someone like Ruben Amorim, he relies on individual brilliance rather than platforming it effectively. So do you think it's a case of Hürzeler relying on that ability to drag him through when his tactical systems may be poor? Or do you think it's Hürzeler platforming these players effectively to be able to thrive and play that way?
I do think it is his platforming, and it's probably one of his strongest areas. Like I say, he noticed Diego Gomez. I think he has probably regressed, to be fair, but he does have some good box movement and instinctive box movement, which you wouldn't usually find from a centre mid. So he's played on the left. He's scored a couple of goals. Played on the right last night. He's made some good late runs into the middle. Scored 4 goals against Barnsley, although he was pretty useless that game. and was probably the worst player on the pitch despite scoring 4 goals. I think Minte has dramatically improved under Hürzeler. I think when he first came in, you could see he was very raw. And then all of a sudden his output exploded middle of last season. There are players that you look at and you think they have improved, but you look at someone like Gomez or I don't know. He's a bit unproven in terms of player development, I'd say, Hürzeler. But yeah, tactically, he's had some brilliant games. I think our setup was very good last night, and it has been against Man City. He's gone 4 games unbeaten against Pep, winning 2-2. Like all of those games have been very, very good, but he's had some absolute howlers as well. So that's why I think he's just okay. He just needs to find the consistency to do it all the time against every team.
But from my perspective, I think if you're getting it right in the big games, which I think we've established Hürzeler does, as well against City anyway, with that 4 games unbeaten, I think that's much harder to do than getting it right in the smaller games. So do you think that's something that will come good over time, or do you think it's an issue that's an issue? It's not going to naturally fix itself.
Yeah, it's an issue, but it's also something that can be fixed with better individuals and better, I suppose, coaching. Because there have been individual errors in these games that we draw or lose. Like say we had someone quicker than Lewis Dunk in the back line, or this player didn't misplace this pass, then we'd be in a much better position. But I do think, sometimes we are too aggressive in some games, and just we have to, I guess, have to change things more and be adaptable. He has to adapt better in games. So as I say, I think it's just a mix with Hurt. So it's a lot of things just have to be balanced, and he has to find the balance. And also, he's nowhere, or his football, and we haven't been anywhere near as bad as people make us out to be this season. We have had some pretty good games, but we also had some terrible games. So again, it's middle, just nah.
Yeah. It's about establishing that consistency in it, really. I think is always a nice place to start to get a feel for how you're doing consistently in terms of creating chances, even though it does have issues as a metric. I think as a starting point, it's always nice. And Brighton are 9th currently for XG, which would be okay. But for XG conceded, you're 16th, I think. Yeah, you're 16th. So is that an issue of maybe Hürzeler trying to be too progressive, pushing too many bodies forward, and then leaving big spaces as the back while not really getting the bang for his buck, if you like, with the attacking focus?
I wouldn't say so necessarily. I think sometimes, yeah, definitely, in some games. But I also think we can be more aggressive and more play forward quicker. Sometimes we're not very good on transition. I mean, last night was a bit of an exception because we created some chances from transitions. But, you look at a team like Brentford, for example, who have a big outlet in Igor Thiago, and he's often left 1v1, 2v2 with Sharda at times, and how many goals they've scored from that. I did a piece on them the other day, and I think something like 6 of his goals have been from transitions. Where he's linked up with Sharda, and where Brentford just get the ball with Keller, just lump it straight up the pitch. They have, just a matchup up higher up the field. I don't understand why we always have to play out from the back and try and build from the back rather than be a bit more pragmatic. That's definitely the word I want to see Hürzeler be more of, and just stick with what works.
I think if you think back to the game earlier in the season against Man City, I think that is an example of him being pragmatic. I remember you went long a lot. I think Danny Welbeck came on, and you caught our back 3 shifting every time by playing that long ball into him and getting those runners in behind. Is that something you'd have liked to see more yesterday? Because I think when you did create chances, it was from those long balls. That the big chance which Diego Gomez missed was from a switch from deep over Mateus Nunes' head to Mitoma running in behind. Same with the goal on the other side. You're taking advantage of Nico O'Reilly, I think it was at the time, getting caught out in a higher position and playing quick transitional football.
Yeah, and we did try to bait your press quite a lot. We split Dunk and Van Acker very, very wide, using Bart as the middle centre-back in a 3, essentially. And that's what we tried to do against Arsenal, for example. We didn't have as much luck against Arsenal, and didn't create anything really in the first half. But I think with a team like City, especially with your counter press, it's easier because your counter press is so
weak.
Weak, I'd say, but also very aggressive, and you leave those big spaces behind, so it's easier to find those long passes and invite the pressure and get a matchup, as I say, higher up the field.
I think something you did really well yesterday as well was finding Van Heck and getting the ball onto that right side of the pitch, because every time we pressed, Haaland's trying to cut off that passing lane into Van Heck, and you're trying to force it to that left-hand side to try and make you play through Lewis Dunk, make you play through Pascal Gross, who maybe aren't as technical as Kadioglu on the other side, and Van Heck so good at finding those progressive passes. But something I think you did really well was finding that out ball, whether it's the switch to Hürzeler, who's high and wide, or just being able to find Van Heck directly. I think that made a big difference in being able to consistently play through our press.
Yeah, and the build up to our goal was pretty much like that. To be fair, we knew when to play vertically and forward, and then out wide to Hürzeler, and that's why there's so much value of playing into pressure, because then you attract players towards you, and you can then find that bounce pass out wide to Hürzeler in this case, where I can't remember who was on your left hand side, but he wasn't covering the angle either through, I think it was Kadioglu or
Nathan Ake.
Oh no, this was another chance actually. Which Kadioglu had a very good ball into the middle, but no one was there. And that's another problem in itself with Rutter being up front, because he doesn't have the box instinct of someone like Welbeck or just a more consistent 9, because he's not a 9. But he does hold the ball up quite well and brings Mitoma or whoever's on the wing, Kadioglu, into play quite well. But yeah, I think sometimes ball progression has been a bit of an issue. We do have one of the best ball progressors in the league, Dan Hecker, in the first line. So it's just the case of the chances. I think we did create enough to win the game, and just been clinical.
I think that was our problem as well, because we also definitely created enough to win the game. If we look at the stats, it was 2.55 XG even for us and 1.16 for you. But every chance, like we mentioned at the start, was a big chance. It was something that could have easily been converted. I know Haaland had 2 or 3 that you think he'd score every day of the week, and he missed them all. And I think with us, that's a sign of fatigue for Haaland, who's played so much. Same with someone like Foden, I think was really ineffective yesterday. And whether that's due to Brighton's block being effective or Foden having a poor game, I think you could argue either or. I'd probably lean towards Foden having a poor game, given how good Cherky was when he came on. But either way, I think you did defend quite well in terms of limiting the space for guys like Foden and Tijani Reinders, who didn't really get on the ball in dangerous positions.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think that is how you're very dangerous. Playing through teams, you try and almost pull the block apart and then try and find the ball through the block, because you have players that you can do that. You got your Cherky, your Reinders, Rodri, of course, Nico Gonzalez. You just got those players that can find those passes and dangerous width as well. Doku, of course, who I thought we did really well against, doubling up Inchwood and Kadioglu. It's just even when you're doubled up against them, you never feel safe against Doku.
No.
We limited space really well, and I think that's something we've done fairly well at times this season. Our distances out of possession has never really been a massive issue, unless it's been on transition. Last year it was a massive issue, being counter attack left, right, centre. I do think out of possession we have improved this season to some extent, but there's been so many individual errors. You look at, did he do this correctly? Where should he have showed him? Could he have put in tackle? Stuff like that. We don't really have great 1v1 defenders at the back either when they're getting run at. Dunk is Bambi on ice sometimes. The Kuip has never been very good 1v1, which was why it's probably a bit of a dodgy shout to start him at left back, because I think left wing is his best position. And he did struggle, to be fair, last night, the Kuiper.
I think when you signed De Kuiper, I thought you'd play a back 3 at the start of the season, maybe with someone like can't remember his name, Boscagli or
Yep.
Capola. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I thought
Capola.
you'd bring one of them in with the signings you've made and go for that back three with De Kuyper on the left and someone like Kadioglu on the right who was so versatile. We kind of saw Kadioglu do that job in the game. He was more of a wing back, I'd say, than a winger in his role, tucking in and doubling up on Doku. But I think it was a blunder from Pep not to play Cherki in this game because Doku was really our only proper creative outlet. You referred to as playing through the block. The only guy that can do that in this team is Jeremy Doku. So by only having him on the pitch and not having Cherki as well, it allows you to double up and triple up on him because you know there's not that danger elsewhere. Whereas when Cherki came on, I think he completely changed the game because that threat was now on both sides. Doku got a bit more space. Cherki had space too. And I think we started creating chances at that point.
Yeah, and you can never switch off either, especially against a player like Doku or just a team like Manchester City. You've always got creativity, and to be fair, we were very lucky that you didn't take any of the 2-3 chances that we gave you, that Yasin Yari gave you. Simple, and they're very simple errors as well, just from Yari not getting his head up, having a look before he does receive the ball, because both of those errors came from him not scanning, which is a very basic action, especially when you're a centre mid. And Bernardo Silva, I think, hit the post, and
I
think it was just a game of individual errors from our perspective.
I think normally you would have someone like Carlos Baleba when he comes back from AFCON in there instead of Ayari.
No, Yari's been our starting player, really. And he's been a very crucial part of the system because he just keeps things ticking. He's not someone that does like anything to an elite level. I'd say maybe ball retention, you could argue, and how quickly he can play the ball, and his ball, I suppose, ball manipulation's all right. He needs to be next to a destroyer, someone like Baleba, who has had far from his best season. And he started alongside Gross, and I think those two, in the early stages anyway, dictated the tempo quite well. But out of possession, you do need someone more dominant than Baleba. Would he have made an impact on the game? Not so much, I don't think, because technically, he hasn't been at the standard, to say the least. You want your more technical players, I think, against City. So.
Yeah, I think it's this debate of kind of your physicality versus your technicality. That is a word, yes. Yeah, your technicality. And it's whether you want to go, do we try and compete on technicality? Because Manchester City, I think we're the most technical team in the world, maybe bar Barcelona. We're always going to win that battle. So I think the way you beat us and where we've struggled this season is against those more physical sides, which is why I think Baleba maybe could have had an impact, because from what I've seen of Baleba, which is mainly last season when he was immense, I think he is such a physical monster. He can dominate those duels.
Yeah,
and shut down those zones in front of the defence.
Yeah, and also this season, I think that probably has been his only good aspect. Just the fact he's so dominant, and that has saved him in many ways from completely embarrassing himself. I mean, he hasn't been good enough. There's no two ways around it. And I'd happily take a bid of 80-ish million, even though I'd said I don't think we should be selling for any less than 120 in the summer. But like that, either way, 80 mil is an immense profit. It's unbelievable, especially for a club like us. We probably do need to be thinking ahead of him as well. We are after Caleb Yarenki. I've been reliably informed from Nordsjælland, and I think he'd maybe even suit the system better in some aspects as well.
Have you watched a lot of that bloke? Or?
No, I've seen clips, but I do like the speed of his action and how dominant he is, and how much of a good carrier he is as well.
Do you think there's a chance you move Baleba on? Well, not move him on, but sell him off in January to someone like Man United, who'd maybe still be looking to bring him in?
I don't think we will this January, but if a bid did come in, and I don't think it will, I'd consider it. And it doesn't sound to me like we will be considering anything at all.
I think class is permanent, though. Would you not agree that it's just a dip in form and he's likely to come back to his best soon? Or do you think this is maybe something that we could see where he's consistently at this level, and maybe he was just running hot before.
Yeah, I do agree. Probably confidence as well. I've never seen a player lose his ability that quickly. So strange. But apparently, I've not watched any of AFCON, but apparently he's been very, very good and been one of the best players in the tournament. He's won a few player of the matches, I think. Let's see. It'd be good if he got a nice confidence boost from AFCON and he can carry that momentum in the second half of the season.
I don't know if there has been a massive structural change maybe in how Brighton set up from last season. Could that be the reason why he's struggling a bit? Because obviously when Liverpool, their midfield became a lot weaker. Trent and Van Dijk's performances dropped off massively. And then when they refresh the midfield, do they go back up to that level?
Yeah, possibly. I don't think we're massively different either. I think we did try and change a bit last season in terms of our structure and idea and how I think sometimes it was like Yassine or Hinchwood who dropped into the first line and we sort of made a 3 and then Baleba would have that sort of single pivot in a way to himself, which is quite similar to what we do now. It's just basic footballing errors. He gave away a penalty against Brentford simply from just a mistimed challenge. As I say, I've never seen someone lose ability so quickly and so weirdly after how good he was last season. One of the best in Europe, you could argue, just simply because of how many teams were after him and the top teams, even Liverpool. Just everyone was falling over themselves to try and get an idea of how much they could buy him for. But it's just really weird. I've never seen anything like it with Baleba.
Yeah, I think when you think about the Premier League midfielders that were on the market, it was kind of Baleba, Wharton, Elliot Anderson. And for me, always thought Baleba was at the top of that at the end of last season. Would you now say he's dropped all the way to the bottom in terms of that pecking order? Because Manchester City, we're looking for someone to come in and kind of replace Bernardo Silva. And while Baleba was kind of mentioned quietly at the end of last season, now it's all Elliot Anderson. He definitely seems like the guy we'd go for.
Yeah, Anderson's also more of a floater.
Yeah.
Whereas Baleba's more of a destroyer, I'd say, and just more dominant. He's good to have in the rest defence. And Wharton is also more a sort of 6, more of an anchor. So I think you look at Palace and look at how they like to build up with Wharton sitting almost and having a floating midfielder next to him. And you can probably look at City and how Rodri just sits on his own and just sprays past it. I think that's very similar to Wharton's game. Whereas Baleba, you need to platform him well and profile him well because of his dominance and his engine and his ground coverage. So probably a bit more of a defensive team than you. I would say maybe a Liverpool would do well because they do sometimes lack, that ground coverage, especially out of possession. When they do lose the ball, they have been known to be very open on transitions.
I think with the massive drop-off of McAllister this year as well, his legs just look completely gone. Whether that's a permanent thing or not will to be seen. But with him really struggling, do you think Baleba's someone they could bring in to replace that, or is he more defensive and not as good in possession?
I'd say more defensive, but I'd take a straight swap, bring McAllister home. We just brought Gross home, so why not?
Yeah, I'm so glad Gross has come back as well. I used to be one of my favourite Brighton players for the limited amount that I watched Brighton. I think he was, by accounts that I've seen, I didn't watch any of him at Dortmund really, but apparently he was really, really poor at Dortmund. So do you think it's maybe a bit of a weird transfer going back into him when he has been so poor instead of bringing in someone fresh with the data model like you normally would do?
I just think people underestimated Gross underestimated and overestimated because they probably expected a player who was physically better. And the thing is with Gross, it's never been his physical ability. Never.
Yeah.
He's one of the slowest players probably to ever play in the Premier League. But where his elite footballing attribute is his footballing brain, in his his footballing IQ and passing and just the ability to find these pockets and retain the ball. You could see last night he was doing that really, really well and keeping the ball. And I think even last night he was only about 50, 60% of what he can do. And people, I guess, just Dortmund didn't really either platform him well because people could see the talent in him and what he could do a lot of the time. But their expectations physically, I think, were probably a bit too high. And he's come back here probably to have a coaching role at the end of his career as well, whether that being, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. But he's just a good player to have. You look at James Milner, for example, who's going on at 40, and it's just about how you look after your body and whatever else. But with a player like Gross, getting hold of him isn't an issue because of his lack of physical ability and football and IQ.
Yeah, he's a bit Luka Modric in that sense. I think I've just got Dortmund up on FootMob here. I think they play quite a weird system that does rely on the midfielders a lot to be physical. It's this 3-4-3, a bit like Man United do, and he's playing mainly next to Nemecha and then Brandt just in front, who also aren't the most physical players. So I think you could... Unfortunately, that is the end of the podcast because my power went out and it kicked Matt off. But cheers for Matt for coming on anyway, and watch my Semenyo video that's coming out tomorrow because I've spent a lot of time on it and it's pretty good. Cheers, guys.